Debt's bad. Avoid it at all costs. But the rich use debt to make money and get richer. So what's the real truth here? Why are there two sides to this argument? Do the rich really use debt to build wealth? Or is that just a flashy headline for million-dollar influencers to use to sell you their course? Should you use debt to create wealth? That's what we're exploring today, starting with this. Not all debt is created equal. You've probably heard people talk about good debt and bad debt before, and honestly, it's not just a cute phrase. It's a really important distinction if you're thinking about using debt to build wealth. Here's a simple way to look at it. Good debt puts money in your pocket. Bad debt takes money out. That's a quote from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it sums up the whole idea perfectly. So what does that really mean? Let's break it down. Bad debt is the kind of debt that drags you down. Credit cards with high interest rates, payday loans, personal loans you use to buy stuff that you usually can't afford. This debt doesn't help you grow. It just locks you into payments that suck money out of your budget month after month. On the other hand, strategic debt, or what some people call good debt, is debt that you use to buy things that can grow in value or generate income over time. This is the kind of debt wealthy people use. Things like real estate investments, business loans, or equipment financing for a business that makes you money. But even then, it's not magic. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used well, or it can hurt you if you're not careful. That's why understanding the difference is step one before you even think about using debt to build wealth. Because if you're using debt to buy liabilities instead of assets, you're just digging a hole that's harder to get out of. So now that we've broken down the types of debt, let's talk about how the wealthy actually use debt to build wealth. Because yes, there's a lot of noise out there. The gurus who say, leverage debt, use other people's money, or OPM as they call it. This is how the rich get richer. And on the surface, they're not wrong. But what they don't always tell you is how much risk they're taking on behind the scenes. Let me give it to you straight. The wealthy use debt strategically, not emotionally, not impulsively, and definitely not just to buy nice things. They use debt as a tool to acquire assets that grow in value or generate income. Here's what that actually looks like. They take out real estate loans to buy rental properties that create cash flow. They use business loans to invest in equipment, marketing, or people that help their businesses scale. They sometimes even leverage low-interest debt to invest carefully when they have a strong plan and a backup. But here's the thing they don't tell you. When the rich use debt, they always have a plan for the risk. They know the numbers. They ask, what's the return I'm expecting on this? And what are the downsides? What's my backup plan if something goes sideways? They always have a clear exit strategy, whether that's selling the asset for a profit, paying down the debt over time, or refinancing to free up cash. So yes, the rich use debt, but they also manage the risk in a way that protects them when things don't go as planned. Because if you don't plan for the worst case scenario, debt can go from a tool to a trap really fast. So let's say you're thinking about using debt to build wealth, whether it's a loan for real estate, a business, or even a side hustle. Before you sign anything, before you take on any risk, you need to ask yourself 3 important questions. Question 1, will this debt increase my income or my asset value? In other words, is this money going to help you make more money or build something that's worth more over time? If the answer is no, or if you're not sure, that's a red flag. Question 2, can I afford the risk if things go sideways? Debt is leverage, but it's also a gamble. Can you handle it if the project flops? Can you still make the payments if your income dips? Or will this debt put you in a position where you're stressed, stretched, or stuck? Question 3, do I have a clear exit plan? This is the one most people skip. How will you pay this off? Is the asset going to generate enough income to cover the debt? What's your timeline? What's your backup plan? What if the economy shifts or life throws you a curveball? Let me give you a real life example from my own experience. When I was running my marketing agency, I had so many people come to me in the early stages of launching their businesses. Some of them were starting from scratch, bootstrapping it with their own time, money, and resources. Others were going all in. They'd taken out loans and maybe secured a grant if they could. But here's what I saw over and over again. They didn't have a plan. Their whole strategy for growing the business was, I'll build a website. That was it. They thought, if I just toss a website up on the internet, customers will magically find me. And no matter how much I try to explain that a website is just one piece of the puzzle, that you need an actual marketing plan, a sales strategy, a way to get in front of your customers, too many of them just couldn't see the value in spending money to build out a complete strategy. And what happened next was predictable. I'd get an angry call. I put everything I had into this business. I took out a loan and I'm not getting any calls. How many people visited my website last month? Why isn't the website delivering leads? It was the same story over and over again, and it was heartbreaking. They skipped the plan, rushed in with debt, and then blamed the website when the business didn't take off. And honestly, I can't even tell you how many websites I had to shut down because those businesses failed. That's why these 3 questions are so important, because if you don't have a solid plan and you can't answer yes to all 3, then you're not ready to use debt to build wealth. It's not about the website, the loan, or the fancy strategy that you see on social media. It's about having a plan that works in the real world. It's better to wait until you're ready than to rush into a situation that could set you back for years. Debt can open doors, but only if you're using it with a strategy, not desperation. So now that we've covered how the wealthy use debt, let's talk about the other side. Because the truth is, you don't have to use debt to build wealth. There's this pressure out there, especially in the financial world, like if you're not leveraging debt, you're just somehow missing out on something. But that's not the case for everyone. Plenty of people build financial freedom by taking a simpler, slower, more intentional path. They focus on the basics, living below their means, consistently investing in assets like index funds, staying out of high-interest debt traps, and steadily growing their net worth over time. That path doesn't get as much hype because it's not flashy, because it's the slow and steady route. You won't see influencers shouting about it in your feed, but it works. And here's the thing, if debt makes you anxious, if you're not ready to take on the risk, or if the idea of borrowing money just feels off to you right now, you can absolutely build wealth without it. It's better to grow slowly and sustainably than to take on debt you're not prepared to handle. Because if you rush into debt thinking it's a shortcut to success, you might end up with more stress, risk, and setbacks than what you bargained for. So don't feel like you have to play the debt game to win. Don't feel pressured into doing something that's not right for you. There's more than one way to build wealth, and the best path is the one that aligns with your values, your risk tolerance, and your long-term vision. Debt isn't really good or bad. It's just a tool, and like any tool, it depends on how you used it. Used well, debt can create leverage, helping you buy assets, grow your income, and build wealth over time. Used poorly, debt can trap you, locking you into payments that limit your freedom and create long-term stress. So if you're thinking about using debt to build wealth, slow down. Ask yourself the hard questions and make sure you're ready financially, mentally, and emotionally before you take that step. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to make money, it's to build a life of freedom, stability, and peace of mind. And here's the good news. Whether you choose to use debt or not, you have options, you have strategies, and you can build wealth in a way that works for you and your life. Watch this video next to learn of another option for building wealth.